of our colleagues in Melbourne who have suffered so much, and today with the earthquake. It is quite remarkable that if that was occurring here, we probably wouldn't be able to meet. So we are very thankful. Graduates, your graduation is a very, very special moment in your lives. It's a very special moment for you, for your family, and one in which you can take great pride. We also, at the University of Adelaide, feel that sense of pride and satisfaction with you. Graduation Day is a ceremony in which you can reflect on the opportunity you have been given, on the skills and the knowledge you have acquired here at this institution, which we trust will put you in very good stead for whatever occurs in your working and professional life, and also, most importantly, for the future aspects of your life itself. Now, it's my very great privilege to introduce to you a very special orator who has a lot in common with each of you and perhaps gives you a glimpse of what will be possible in your careers. Our orator today is Mr. Brenton Cox. Mr. Cox is Adelaide Airport's Chief Financial Officer. I'm sure, Brenton, that's been quite the journey of recent times. He's also the General Counsel and Company Secretary there as well. Brenton was previously a non-executive director of Sydney and Hobart Airports, and he was an investment banker with Macquarie Capital in Sydney and London. He has a Masters of Law from Cambridge University in the UK, and in fact 3 undergraduate degrees from here at the University of Adelaide, including what's relevant to many of you in commerce and finance. And he graduated from this university approximately 20 years ago. He's also a great servant of the South Australian public. He sits on the board of the South Australian Property Council, the South Australian Freight Council, and he's chair of Seymour College's Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee. And for us here at the University of Adelaide, we are really delighted that Brenton has been so willing to serve as a valued member of our advisory board for the Adelaide Business School. So we're very privileged to hear Brenton speak, and without further ado, I'd ask Brenton to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor Mr. David Hill and Acting Provost Professor John Williams. Thank you, distinguished guests, our wonderful academic staff, and most importantly, our Adelaide University graduates and their families and friends. Congratulations, graduates of 2021. You should be incredibly proud of yourselves and take this day at the very least to bathe in that pride. I remember being in your shoes 20 years ago, and I wish I'd paid a bit more attention then than I did. The speaker at the time actually started off with talking about this moment of graduation as being that moment in life when you're at base camp and the rest of your life is like climbing Mount Everest. Now, I love a bit of mountain climbing, I'm sure many people do, but I did find it hard to look forward to a lifetime of exhaustion, struggling to breathe, with the real likelihood of plummeting to the bottom of a crevasse to suffer debilitating but not quite life-ending injuries, allowing me to slowly suffer freezing to death while I considered the futility of my own existence. For some reason, that analogy did not appeal. So I drifted at that moment to thinking about the sort of pints of the Cooper's Pale Ale I devour at the British Hotel with my old classmates. And what I will say, and I'll pause in this story, to say, look around now, your peers, the people that you're graduating with. When you're a crusty old bugger like me, they'll be some of your best friends even then. But in my early 20s, what I didn't know is that I'd become somewhat addicted to the thrill of connecting people through travel or helping them learn and just watching how they grow and contribute to the world. These were joys that I stumbled across in life. So an analogy to fill the next 10 minutes of your life that you'll never get back is not going to be about Everest, but perhaps something a little less tangible right now, a little harder to reach, and it's a travel theme. It's about your own Contiki tour of life. I checked and Contiki tours still exist. I thought perhaps the last 20 months would be too much for them, but if you're not familiar with these tours, it's the sort of idea where you backpack around the world, but it's a little bit perhaps looser than that. What I'll say is the reason why that's relevant is that you never stop learning. Every day, every city you go to, each milestone, each experience is just another stop on the way. You do need a plan, but sometimes just stay curious, see where the plane or bus might take you. So what I've outlined today is perhaps some of the questionable advice I've picked up on my own Contiki tour of life. These are 7 pieces of advice. So arguably the 7 deadly sins, which is also relevant for a Contiki tour. You might hate these, but I love them. And I'll start with the first being quite basic. Stay fit and healthy. So we're not on the tour bus yet, we're on the bike that my father rode to work every single day of his career, and he drilled in very early in life that you've got to stay healthy. Most of you are very young, and years of good or bad habits have a tendency to accrue for better or for worse over time. If you're not healthy, you can't be at your best. If you're fit and healthy, you're far more likely to be able to think clearly and have greater resilience. Life is a marathon, not a sprint, as they say, and if you don't look after yourself, you'll be stuck in the first town that the bus drops you off. Second, be a teacher. My mother was a teacher, and it was only when I worked here for a brief stint as a university teacher on these hallowed grounds that I appreciated how rewarding teaching is. Teaching has to be one of the most noble of professions, the most noble. But you don't need to be a teacher by profession to be generous with your knowledge. And teaching doesn't have to be a virtuous one-way street. I'm fast-forwarding a little bit now into my tour of life, having moved back to Sydney in my late 20s. And there was an executive director at work that used to tell me that I had to make myself redundant. Now, this was just after the GFC, and that all felt a little bit confronting. But what he meant was, it's only once you've taught your team to the point that they can perform your job that you'll get the opportunity to step up when that comes your way. So teaching isn't just rewarding, and it's not that you just get to see people grow, but it also creates opportunities for you. It's been said that if you're not learning, if you're not curious about how the world works, then you're dying. Perhaps dying somewhere in a crevasse on the way to Everest. I'd rather be drinking sangria, watching the sunset on a beachside rooftop in San Sebastian. So teach and learn and do not stop. Third, your resume is your brand. So be deliberate about how you build it. Our journey's now officially started at the point where I spent a couple of months in Melbourne and in the sort of summer holidays before I graduated, and the law firm of a partner of a global law firm there gave me 3 hot tips, and I very much took these to heart. 1, work overseas. 2, work for a global brand. 3, do postgraduate study. And do it somewhere different from where you did your undergrad. Now, this is probably not the right place to be sharing that final point, but I did take all of those very seriously and followed those hot tips, as you might have picked up from the rather embarrassing but kind introduction. You get to keep those experiences for life. 4th, working hard is worth it. There's a saying, work smart, not hard. But the reality is you have to work smart and you have to work hard. My own little Contiki tour of life is now in Belgium, where I was battling to complete a financial model for a Brussels airport deal with a bit of deal fatigue, and a wise Frenchman with an excellent accent that I can't really repeat said, there are lots of smart people in this world, and there are lots of hard-working people in this world, but there are not many smart and hard-working people, so you must be both. Now, you are all smart, and that is why you're here. And some of you might not want to work hard, and that's fine. But just know that only through working hard that you can make the most of your abilities. And that's the only way you can live a full life. But it is your choice. To continue the theme, a former Chief Justice of South Australia that attended this university said to me that sometimes work can feel overwhelming, but do not freeze, break down what you have in front of you and just get going and work it out. The more time you spend doing is less time spent worrying, so solve problems. Don't leave problems to others. Make others' lives easier. Make it so that no problem is too big. You can work it out. If you need resources in a workplace, Go and get them. The chances are that if you need them, anyone else doing that will need them too. If you know you have a capacity for work, you develop a capacity for problem solving, and this will instill and generate an innate confidence in yourself. Fifth, have fun, but maintain self-control. I'm told this is a bit of dad advice, but a senior insolvency practitioner, which is the equivalent of a corporate undertaker, they still can have fun, but he's now a career director of ASX-listed companies, said to me, do not have sex with your colleagues. Unless you're going to marry them, and that generally doesn't happen, it just works out badly. So that same person said that who you are in your personal life impacts on your professional reputation. So don't entertain addictions like smoking, drugs, or disrespecting alcohol. It's a slippery slope. It can seem fine from time to time, but it is a slide that many people find very hard to get off. This all seems a bit obvious, but many careers have met an untimely end through ill discipline. Sixth, have a growth mindset. I've made it back to Adelaide now, and this comes from my daughter 5 years ago when she was 4 years old. She overheard my wife and I discussing some sort of trivial problem, and she said, is it a mouse problem or an elephant problem? Because unless someone is going to die, it's going to be a mouse problem. She then taught us about having a growth mindset, which kids learn in preschool these days. Some of you might have learned it, I'm not sure. I certainly was just left to sort of work it all out. She said, always be kind and stay calm and care for one another. Be respectful and listen and put yourself in other people's shoes. Kids are way smarter these days. I simply reflect on this as be kind. Be someone that people want to work with. Value diversity and keep your eyes and ears open. Seventh and finally, find purpose in what you do, but don't stress about that too much. Don't worry if you can't find a sense of purpose straight away in your career. You'll initially be on a huge learning curve, and you should just be sucking up that experience and that context. But do in time look for work where you can contribute to society, and that does make you feel good. It does help to have a broad plan, but stay flexible to take advantage of unexpected opportunities. If you do stay positive, if you're curious, kind and hardworking, when opportunities arise, you'll grab them, and you might just stumble upon what really drives you and make you tick. The benefits of learning the skills that you've learned in this fine business school are that, probably without even you realising, you've learned how to allocate scarce resources to their highest and best use. These are skills that are needed in all walks of life, and you have every opportunity to find meaning in what you do through that. So I've stumbled across my own sense of purpose, but I didn't know that in this current stage of my own little Contiki tour, the purpose I found in connecting people through aviation would be stopped, hopefully temporarily. So there are some things you can plan for, and there are many things that you just have to be ready and resilient so you can find your way back to your path and the purpose that you desire. So that's it. Take heed of this advice. Also, feel free to ignore it and go straight to the pub like I did 20 years ago, but make sure that you celebrate this moment. You deserve it. And I know day to day it doesn't often feel like it, but each of you, and this is a little cliche, but it is true, are the future of our planet. You can each make a positive influence. You will create the quality of life for my children and your own children in time, and you'll be shaping the fabric of our society as part of your own life's journey. And I can't wait to see what you all do. So please savour this moment and make sure you have a lot of fun with your own Contiki tour of life. Thank you very much.